Hi, I'm Mike Meier. Welcome to my PlayStation Review Show, the show where I review video games that were released on the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and the PlayStation 4. On today's show, I'm going to be doing a review of the very first Fighting Force, the first of two games in the series. So if you're ready, let's get started.
Fighting Force was released for Sony's PlayStation 1 console in 1997, developed by Core Design and published by Eidos Interactive. This game was originally going to be a fourth entry in Sega's Streets of Rage series, but when Core pitched the idea to everyone at the company, they declined as Sega had its own plans for continuing said series. As a result, Fighting Force became a standalone original title. It was highly anticipated, but was met with mixed reviews. I'll give you my average Joe based 2 cents about this game as we go on with my review of it, not to worry. I remember playing this game when I paid a visit to a friend's house one day when I was in junior high school. I was in my early teens and in grade 8 at the time, mind you. Let's just say I really liked the game, and surprisingly enough, I remember it very fondly and still like it to this day as a 41-year-old man. I have nothing at all bad to say about this game. When I was doing my research, I was even more surprised, rather pleasantly, that the character designs were done by Mark Silvestri, one of the 7 founders of my favorite comic book company, Image Comics, and also the founder of his studio, Top Cow Productions. The objective of the game is to stop the evil Dr. Zhang from destroying the world, as he believed that an error of some kind, which he intends to correct no less, prevented the world from coming to an end on New Year's Eve in 1999. Scary thought, huh? Let's take a look at the controller button function layout, shall we? The D-pad is self-explanatory. It's designed to move your character in all directions. But when you use it and the R1 button, the character you choose to play as can run and also perform a dash attack. The square button controls your ability to kick and discard an object you pick up, while triangle allows you to perform your back fist and grappling attacks. The circle button allows your character to jump, perform combos, as well as your special attack, which I will talk about in just a bit. Finally, the cross or X button, if you will, controls your ability to punch in addition to picking up and using an object, such as a melee weapon, for example. Here's something that you might want to keep in mind. Each of the 4 playable characters has a special move, which can be used if you press the circle and X buttons. However, it will drain your health meter bar, so it would be best if you use it sparingly. Players can choose between 4 playable characters, namely Alana McKendricks, Hawk Manson, Mace Daniels, and Ben Smasher Jackson. When I first started playing this game, I was completely blown away by the graphics. I had never seen anything like this before. They were cutting edge for their time. Keep in mind that early to mid-90s video games, created using 3D technology, were quite sophisticated yet revolutionary, all of which were responsible for helping to usher in the 3D era of consoles, thanks to the release of the first Sony PlayStation, which was designed to be 3D-focused hardware. However, by today's standards and thanks to newer, more advanced technologies and graphics being introduced, 1990s era 3D games became dated, thus making older titles like this one appear primitive. When you first start playing the game, you will head for Dr. Zhang's office skyscraper. Once you arrive, you will be facing off with a small number of enemies. After you do, destroy the police squad cruiser on the left side of the building in order to find the bazooka. After you find it, pick it up, head over to the entrance gate, and destroy it. See what I mean? Next, head for the parking lot area and do battle with a few more enemies. Enter the building's lobby reception area. While there, you'll have to take on even more enemies. In order to progress, you will need to destroy one of the 2 guard walls. After you do that, face off with the last remaining enemies and make your way into the elevator. Once in said area, everything else is self-explanatory. With nothing more needing to be said where this battle scenario is concerned, let's move on, shall we? here's something I think you should be made aware of if you haven't played this game before. The controls in this game may be good, but they are to a certain extent. That's because they are quite flawed, according to the research I did for this review and from my own personal experience. The 360-degree movements are difficult to manage, making it hard to aim strikes effectively using your basic moves, namely punches, kicks, and continue on. This flaw also greatly affects how you use melee weapons or other items you can pick up and use. Next, battle with even more enemies as you proceed down a corridor leading to Dr. Zhang's office. But be forewarned, a couple of the rooms in this area are rigged to explode. Just when you think it's over, Dr. Zhang decides not to stick around and makes a hasty retreat, leaving his blade-wielding femme fatales to deal with you. Once they've been successfully subdued, you'll make your way to the city streets, where you will have to battle with, you guessed it, more enemies, including those who ride motorcycles, plus a few other things that can be hazardous to you. Keep in mind that you will gain extra lives whenever you earn 100,000 points, but I have to tell you that if you take too much damage to the point where your health meter reaches 0, you will either get a game over or have to use a continue should you earn one or more of them during gameplay. If you feel you want to, of course, there's an unlimited lives code you can use in Fighting Force for PS1. Make sure you follow this step carefully. Pause the game, then press right on the D-pad, then press square, then triangle, then square, then triangle, and finally X. If you survive the city streets, you'll come face to face with the end-level boss, Driver. If you want to defeat him with reasonable ease, use the melee weapons lying around, such as the red axe, for example. One thing that surprised me when I played this game all the way through to the end one day is that players can choose which territory to travel through next. You can either go to the Bronx, where you will do battle with enemies from the city street stage in a back alley type setting, while at the same time dodge explosives that get dropped on you from above. Make your way to the park, where you will once again fight it out with more of the same enemies from the stage already mentioned, as well as dodge a couple more of the ones on motorcycles again. However, you can defeat those enemies by either jump kicking them or, like I did, perform your back fist attack on them. And finally, the shopping mall, where you can do a lot more than just battle with enemies from Dr. Zhang's skyscraper and city street stages. That's right, you can wreck vending carts, cause property damage to shops, you can even trash and ruin a new car! Sorry, I just had to do it. I watched my fair share of game shows when I was a kid. Don't hold against me, okay? One thing you should know is this. Whichever path you choose to take, either one of them will lead you to the next stage. Case in point, the train station. As in the subway train station, that is. After you fend off more enemies, as in a huge gaggle of them, including those that emerge from subway trains, you will take on the end-level boss known as Exo. Something that I never really took notice to before, until years later, is that the 3D camera angles in this game can at times be quite problematic, especially when you find yourself in tight spaces, which makes it quite difficult to track the enemies you face off with in this game, including the bosses. Since there's so many functions mapped to the buttons on the PS1 controller, you will occasionally trigger a move you did not want to use unintentionally, which will at the most inconvenient of times leave you open to attack from oncoming enemies, guaranteed. Next up, you can choose between going to either the air base or naval base. If you choose to go to the air base, you will be facing off with not just the usual generic enemies you'll be facing off with, all of whom are going to be a little more difficult to defeat, but also with the end-level boss known as Jetpack. Keep in mind that she does tend to move rather quickly, thanks to the rocket pack she's wearing. My suggestion is to perform grappling attacks against her if you're able to, like I did. If you choose to go to the naval base, the generic enemies you'll be facing will be just as difficult to defeat as the ones in the airbase stage. However, once you succeed in subduing them, you'll be taking on Vulcan. Keep in mind that you won't be able to use your basic or special attacks against him because if you do, it's gonna hurt. So, only use projectiles, namely oil drums, to defeat him. I really like the soundtrack to Fighting Force. It definitely has a lot to be desired, and does have its merits, if you like electronic rock music that is. This game definitely has some good tunes to listen to while you play it. I gotta tell ya, video game soundtracks sure have come a long way since the 80s and 90s. When I first played this game when I was in my early teens in the late 90s, I was awestruck. I never knew anything like this was even possible, especially with video games released on Sony's PlayStation hardware. If you complete the airbase stage and successfully defeat Jetpack, you will have to do battle with, again, more of the same tough-to-beat generic enemies as before aboard Dr. Zhang's skyship. Need I say anything more on this? Nope. If you complete the naval base stage, you will have to pretty much do the same thing, but on the water aboard Dr. Zhang's hover ship. Since everything about those two scenarios are self-explanatory, I don't need to say anything more on this, so let's move on. As I said once before, regardless of which path you choose after you finish the train station stage, either one will lead you to the final stage, Dr. Zhang's Island Fortress. Once inside, you will face off with new enemies who can regenerate health rapidly after they take damage from you, called Cryo. So it would be best if you keep using your basic, grappling, or special attacks on them until they've been defeated. To make things a little more challenging, you'll be facing off with some enemies who use electroshock gauntlets, so use caution when confronting them. Afterwards, you will be doing battle with generic enemies at the construction site on top of an elevation lift platform. They will be quite difficult to handle, and because there are no boxes containing health restoring items in sight, you're going to have to stay on the defensive periodically, as well as plan your attacks cautiously. Make sure that you use food items dropped by defeated enemies to replenish your health. Survive that confrontation, and you'll make it to the final boss himself, Dr. Zhang. Whatever you do, don't attack him directly. You can definitely defeat him the way that I did, as you can see, or you can destroy several of the gold boxes in the area to reveal weapons to help you defeat him, and health packs should you feel you need them. Defeat him, and the game is finished. You will be victorious. Before I consider ending this review and walkthrough I'm doing for this game, I have to make mention of this. Fighting Force 2, the sequel to this game, was released in December of 1999 for the PlayStation 1. Unlike the first installment, it focuses only on the character of Hawk Manson, as he is the only playable character in it. However, it received mixed reviews and was not very successful. A third game was going to be made and released for the PlayStation 2, but was cancelled during development when Core Design closed down, thus, as a result, bringing an end to the series as a whole. All in all, despite its obvious flaws, I choose to write off what I made mention of in this review and walkthrough as minor complaints, as I don't see them as a way to deter, discourage, or even prevent me from playing this game. Not by a long shot. So, with that being said, on a scale of 1 to 10, graphics deserve a 7.5, which is primarily due to the fact that 3D games from the 90s are considered dated by today's standards, regardless if they aged well or not. Sound effects deserve a 5.5. They are what they are, generic at best, but that's to be expected. The music deserves an 8. It's good in its own right, it definitely has its merits. I absolutely cannot deny that. Controls deserve an 8, as they are good to a fault going back to what I already talked about during this review. Replay value deserves an 8 at best. Even though the game is decent and at times good, you will come back to it, but only on an every now and then basis. Overall, I think the game deserves a solid 8.5, solely for the effort that was put into making this game on the part of everyone at both CORE and Eidos. It may have its fair share of flaws, but it's still a good game. It is definitely worth playing. I don't hold any personal grudges against this game at all, nor do I have anything remotely bad to say about it. I really like Fighting Force for the PS1. I still remember it, and rather fondly. If you are curious about it and own a PlayStation 1 game console, regardless if it's the original from 1995 or the smaller redesigned version from 2000, why not track down a copy of Fighting Force at your favorite video game resale store and give it a try?
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of my PlayStation Review Show. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next one. Take care and bye for now.